Welcome to a special episode of Ask Andy Anything, and this episode, dating/romantic reality shows. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I just wanted to get away from it all. I didn't want to watch any serious shows or anything that made me have to think at all. So I started off with Love is Blind. And in this show, the people get to spend, I believe it's like a week or two, talking to each other, but they don't get to see each other. It's through a wall. So one person is on one side of the wall, one person's on the other, and they just talk about normal things you would if you were on a date, except not being able to see the person, similar to being on a date on a phone, with the goal being you fall in love with someone for who they are, not for what they look like. And after that week or so, where they're all in a studio, the men live with the men, the women live with the woman, and the way to move on to the next phase is for either the man or the woman propose to the other one, and then they start off engaged. And so the show moves on from there as they live together and work on their relationship. And of course, you try to predict who's going to stay together, who's going to break apart, and shenanigans, of course, ensue. This is the first season of the show, and now it's been a couple months since I watched all the reality shows, just about every single reality show on dating and marriage and things like that. So I'm not going to rate these shows other than to say the ones that really captivated me and the ones that were binge worthy, at least for me. And I went right through this. I mean, I couldn't stop. I think I stayed up all night. So that's Love is Blind. I followed that up with Too Hot to Handle. And this show also on Netflix. Yeah, so this is more international, but all English-speaking countries, Canada, Australia, England, the United States. On this show, a bunch of super hot people get together on an island, and they don't know why they're there. They just think it's going to be just to hang out and party. And then they're told almost immediately that there's a certain pot of money. I forget how much it's for. I think it's $100,000. What they have to do in order to get that $100,000, which will be split by everybody, and I think there's like 8, 10, maybe even 12 people. And in order to keep the money, you can't do certain things. You can't kiss. You can't touch in a salacious way. You can't have sex. You can't have any real deep physical contact. And so all these people, they think they're basically there to have sex. It's kind of like one of those retreats in Jamaica where everyone walks around nude. Although they're not walking around nude in this show, obviously. They might as well be, because the bikinis don't leave much to the imagination. This is pretty much Gen Zs or very young millennials that are on the show. So of course there's alcohol involved, and so you see these people that are used to having sex all the time. They didn't go on knowing it's a competitive reality show. They're pretty hot. So Too Hot to Handle is an apt title for it. I binged this one as well. I mean, right away. It was too salacious. It was even more so than Love is Blind. Next I watched Married at First Sight. This one, again, held me very quickly. Binged it very quickly, but it had been out for 8 seasons before the one that I saw. So I saw season 9, and then season 10 dropped last month, and I watched that as well. And now season 11 is out, but it's out on Lifetime, and so I think they're showing 1 per week, 1 through 9 on Netflix. I believe 10, you can binge it, but it's with advertisements on Lifetime, because that's how I watched it. So let's talk about season 9, what you can see on Netflix. This show is very similar to Love is Blind. The difference is that they have a professional therapist, sex therapist, a minister. They have 3 people that all get together and decide who to match up with whom. It'll be city by city. The way that it works is a bunch of people get together, almost like American Idol, kind of cattle call sort of thing. And all day long, these hundreds of people get interviewed by the 3 people that I mentioned. And after they've interviewed, they'll get together and they'll decide on 4 to 5 couples. There was 4 couples in season 9, and then in season 10 went to 5 couples. But they'll decide on 4 couples they think have the best shot. The first time they see each other is when they're walking down the aisle. So it's pretty intense, and it's even more cringy because the families are there. In some situations, one side's family doesn't show up because they don't believe in this type of a thing. So a lot come into this thinking, it's going to be easier than it is, and of course it isn't. It's pretty uncomfortable to watch, but highly, highly entertaining. Obviously, they're going to select personalities that are going to make it interesting. You're going to have a good mix of people. You're going to go from a 27-year-old African-American, highly religious virgin to a white professional basketball player who is used to getting action almost every single night. Yeah, I love that show. And of course, I went back and I watched 10 with commercials just because I liked 9 so much. And if I thought 9 was cringy, oh my God, 10, it was ridiculous. Just sewer people. people that want to be Instagram famous. What a train wreck. But of course, couldn't take my eyes off of it. And then after that, I watched 90 Day Fiance. And 90 Day Fiance has been out for a few years. And I thought I was watching the most recent season, but I was actually watching the first one. Basically, they find Biggest Losers that meet super hot chicks from around the globe. This one total milquetoast Mormon. This guy was a missionary in some small backwoods town in Brazil. The girl that he meets there, I guess he converts her to becoming a Mormon, because I doubt that there was Mormons in that little village before this guy got there. See, these people, they know the people before they get engaged to them. The way that the show is set up, the U.S. government will give a 90-day visa to somebody that you're engaged to. If you do not get married within the 90 days, their visa is revoked and they have to go back to wherever they're from. So this is the most serious of the shows that I've mentioned so far, because this is where they know the person and they want to get married to them. And the people they chose for this are all from backwaters places, the countries these girls come from. And so mostly these people are coming to places around America, maybe like Cleveland, or places in which nobody from New York or California would ever go. Getting back to the Mormon guy, the girl that he's with, and she doesn't look traditionally Brazilian. You can tell that she's of European ancestry. She's 21 years old and unbelievably perfect in every aspect. Of course, it's super cringy because the Mormon guy who lives in LA, he brings this girl out there, and the first thing that happens, she goes in to get her hair done, and the lady who's cutting her hair, because they go to a really nice, I think like Beverly Hills hair cutting salon, gives her the card of a guy that is a talent agent. You'll look at this girl, you'll be like, yeah, totally model. And this guy, of course, figures out, I better lock her down right away. And remember, they haven't had sex yet either because they're Mormon. And so he just says, let's just get married right away instead of waiting to the end of the 90 days like everyone else. Let's just get it over with. Anybody who sees her, would want to be with this girl. And obviously, you'll see what happens in the show. I don't want to give too much away. Then there's a cute little Russian girl, and not like Russian you'd imagine. She's not a big, tall, blonde model. She looks like she's more Eurasian. And this girl has more of an edge. She's a little bit wiser than the girl from Backwaters town in Brazil. I think she's around 20, 21. I think he's 31. It's interesting what he has to do to reel her in, because it's looking like she's kind of losing interest in him when she comes back to his home in Cleveland. He's kind of a portly guy. He drinks, he smokes. And for anyone who's watching this from outside LA, I know I sound
super judgy.
Yeah, you just can't get away with that kind of stuff in LA. There's a few other people, but the one that I love the most in terms of the cringiest is a guy that lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he's the one who's the hippest. And he's actually, attractive guy. The girl that he has is a Colombian. And she is as Colombian gets. Takes a couple hours to put on her makeup and to get dressed. Of course, they chose this couple. It's not from a major city in Colombia or anything like that. Again, it's a backwaters place, because I'm assuming that most of the people that are from the big cities in these other countries that want to marry American, they ain't marrying these Americans. Although, like I said, this guy would be the closest one that I could see someone just being attracted to just on looks alone. I mean, he doesn't have much of a personality, but, to each his own. When she comes to Tulsa, he wants to save money by living with his parents. His parents, I don't even know what to say for them, because it's going to sound super judgy. I mean, they're feels like Midwest Southern vibe. Number one, they can't sleep in the same room under the parents' house. And these are full-grown adults. The mother gives her bacon, and she doesn't want to eat the bacon. And the mom's forcing it onto her. And she's like, you're going to have to learn how to make some bacon and make all these disgusting, devoid of any personality food. Your basic bacon, eggs, hash browns, no flavor to it. And you're talking to a Colombian and telling her she's got to get used to this type of food and learning how to cook this food for her son. None of these parents are attractive. And so obviously I know that the producers are making sure that they elicit a reaction like you're getting from me right now about, these poor girls. And this one's, she's pretty tough. She's very savvy, and she quickly gets her fiance to get them their own place. From all these shows, what I like to do, once I've finished the season, is to look up and see where the couples are now. Who's still together, regardless of which of the shows it is, because I had my ideas on what was going to happen with this Colombian girl in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So things that I predicted came true. And I'm not saying that they're not together, but I'm just saying that she was able to find her people, shall we say. Because it was so cringy, I haven't watched any other seasons of it, and I just was feeling really disgusted with myself by this point. I might come back to it, but I'm just saying, once you've run out of reality TV, this is where I would go in terms of reality TV around dating and romance. Then after taking some much needed time off from these shows, I basically jumped over to Hulu and watched about 6 different series, all that I loved, which I'll talk about in later episodes. I'm going to say 3 weeks ago, I jumped into a thing called Dating Around. What's different from all the other shows is the producers are not involved. They don't prod you. They don't tell you to do anything. Basically, a camera focused on 2 people. I mean, it's beautifully shot, by the way. 2 people going out on a date. And the way it works is either one woman or one man will go out with 5 different people. I was going to say of the opposite sex, but that's not true because there's lesbian and there's gay episodes as well, and even one that's a boomer edition. So they would basically go on 5 dates, and then they would choose one or none of the 5 people to go out with again. It's one of those ones that leaves you wanting to know more because there's nobody, they're not talking into the camera. They're not saying, oh, here's how the date went or anything like that. You just see it happening. It's as organic as you can get with a camera being around. It's the most realistic of any of these shows. And it's still engaging. I think it's more engaging because no one's being prodded to do anything and you don't know really what's going to happen, and all you see is it's just like if you went on a date, you went online dating, went out with a bunch of people, then you just decide one of those people out again. I really enjoyed it, but again, you're gonna have to separate this on your plate from all the ones that I mentioned before. It just makes you feel a little bit better about humanity. The other ones make you feel like we're heading towards Armageddon. Then last week I watched 2 series that were just each a season. Was Indian Matchmaking, which I really loved because it really gives you an insight into the Indian culture, but the Indian culture not in India per se. Some of the matches that were made were in India, but they're mostly in the United States. And so you see someone that was born in the United States who's of Indian ancestry that wants to marry someone who's Indian to keep the culture going. It's a really fascinating show. That you don't get the pretty people. Yes, there are some that are attractive. It's closer to Dating Around in terms of more of a realistic show. Of course, you're going to choose people that the camera loves and people that be watching it, and you just say, yeah, this person is an awful person. But at the end of the day, it's just people. They just happen to be of Indian ancestry. Finally, I just watched Love on the Spectrum. There's only like 4 episodes, I think, and maybe 5. I went through it so quickly that I didn't realize I was done with it. I kind of did that with Indian Matchmaking. Like I ate it so fast that then I'm like, wait, I thought there was 1 slice of pizza left. There's nothing. There wasn't even a crumb. In Love on the Spectrum, this one, again, it's like the Indian Matchmaking. It's just an insight into a whole different world. And it's crazy stuff because you do have a chaperone with the person. You don't see the person. So right in the middle of dinner, one person maybe go to the bathroom, and then they're almost back to the chair, maybe 10 feet away, and then the producer will start interviewing them. I mean, you don't see the producer, but you hear him ask him a question. And what was really funny with one of my favorites is Kelvin, this Chinese guy. They're asking questions about how the date's going, and he makes a comment, and the girl who's like 10 feet away sitting down eating, the person starts commenting back, and it's just so funny. And it's just really fascinating, and it's really sad because he's got these incredible guys, and almost seems like most of the women, they decide after they go on a date with these guys that maybe they're lesbian or they prefer women. I'm not giving things away. I'm just saying it will warm the cockles of your heart. I'll tell you that much. And it's definitely something to make you feel better, just better about people, especially during this day and age. But if you just want to go pure filth, then go in the order that I did. Actually, I'm going to put Too Hot to Handle first, even though that's not the order I watched it. I'll say Too Hot to Handle, followed by Love is Blind, then Married at First Sight, and then, move into Dating Around, Indian Matchmaking. I mean, you could do Indian Matchmaking, then Dating Around, then Love on the Spectrum. It's really up to you. And all these shows are on Netflix, I'm pretty sure. And then, like I mentioned, with Married at First Sight, that if you want to go to later episodes, I think, 10 and 11, you'd have to watch it on Lifetime. I'd love to hear your comments and what I've had to say and see what you think about what I've had to say. And if you like what I've had to say, please click like and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks.